Live from Studio 3, this is Packaging Today with Evelio Matos, Adam Peake, and Corey Connors.
All right, there we go. I was talking, I couldn't hear myself. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Monday, March 13th at 8:30. Typically, I don't do this. We usually have all three of us on, which we did an hour ago. But of course, I wasn't aware that daylight savings had even happened because I'm in Arizona and we don't change our clocks. So that kind of screwed things up. So we did an earlier recording. We shared it. I was going to repost that here, but the technology does not allow for that. LinkedIn is not happy with it. So I'm just going to do a quick recap. If you're here listening, do me a favor, just let us know where you're coming from. It's going to be just me today on this show. But if you want, you can catch the earlier show with the boys and I, and we kind of just chat about a bunch of stuff. But today I want to catch up on what we talked about was like Entenmann's moving away from a plastic window on their packaging to show the food, going to just a printed box that pretended to have like a window, had like a print of a window with product inside. And they just reversed their decision. So now they've gone back to a plastic window, which I thought was really, really crazy, right? Everybody's moving away from plastic, but these guys moved away from it. Sales went down. Supply chain kind of screwed things up, and then supply chain ran back up. And instead of keeping no window on their packaging, they went back to a plastic window. Then, we talked about Toblerone not being Swiss enough anymore to be able to showcase the Matterhorn on their packaging, which is crazy because they've got to redesign all of their packaging. And if you're familiar with Toblerone, it is the triangular box of packaging, right? So these laws are impacting brands left and right, not just the Swissness law, but there are EPR laws. There are so many different things that are really hitting packaging hard today. Adam's at the TLMI conference today. He did take a red eye, so he was pretty exhausted this morning, and now he's got to run around the rest of the day and learn a lot of cool stuff. So that's pretty interesting. So real quick, I want to share some stuff with you. And if you're watching this, go ahead, throw a comment in where you're at. Any questions? If you saw the earlier one, you're watching this again. Thanks. Appreciate it. So this is the Toblerone thing, right? So like Toblerone is no longer Swiss enough to be able to have this Matterhorn on here. And the crazy part is that they were just redesigned. Like this packaging is new packaging within the last 12 months. Logo, art, positioning, type, even the Matterhorn has been redesigned. Everything has changed because of this. One, they did a redesign, but now this new Swissness law, if you're not 100% made in Switzerland, you can't have any claim to the country. So they're moving some of their production outside of Switzerland. I think it's like a small amount. I can't remember. It was like 20% or something like that outside of Switzerland. So now they're not Swiss enough. And it makes sense. The Swiss don't want you claiming Swiss products because of the idea. I think at least in the West, we feel like Switzerland's like really clean. It's obviously ultra modern. And from a design standpoint, there's an aesthetic there as well. So there's a brand. They're basically protecting the country's brand, which I thought was pretty cool. But we did finally get to see this thing here. Even after the redesign, there is like this little bear here. Like you can see his little arm and his head and his ear and his back and his legs, which I thought was pretty cool. I didn't see it the first time, but now I'm seeing it again. It's there. So definitely check that out. But there's a lot of brands that have some claim in Switzerland that are now having to redesign their packaging. So that impacts packaging quite a bit. The other topic that we covered was just this Entenmann's, right? So it went from this, which these are not windows, right? And it looks like a terrible rendering that you're seeing here. It looks like, like I just threw this in Photoshop and Illustrator, threw like a drop shadow in here. No, but that's what it actually looked like. Like that's the packaging without the window. And now they're going back to window. So this is what it looked like with the window. So obviously you can see through. You can see the backlit print on the back of the box, and sales were great. And I grew up in New York, and Entenmann's was like the treat. You brought that home from your parents brought that home from the grocery store, and you had an entire box in one sitting. But they moved away from that plastic window to the print, which was cool because you eliminated a lot of packaging, right? You eliminated a lot of plastic from the packaging because this window doesn't just end here; it actually goes pretty far over. Um, but one question that Adam did bring up, which I thought was great, was which was a great question, is because this material is a cellulose based plastic, how come it doesn't recycle with paper, right? If it is basically the same material, um, at that level of it's just cellulose, then why doesn't it recycle, or does it recycle with paper? So I thought that was pretty interesting from a design standpoint. I thought there was, yeah. So like this is, again, like here's this fake window, and I would say like if I'm buying this product, this doesn't look appealing, right? This fake window print just looks really cheap. Not that Entenmann's is the most expensive, luxurious product, but there's an expectation from the consumer. Um, so having like this window here, the product, like it's 4-color process. This brown gets kind of dull. The details in here kind of falls. They just aren't quality. They aren't realistic. So they should have actually just changed the entire design to be more fitting for not having a window instead of trying to fake a window, which makes it look cheap and just unappealing, right? I mean, if they just got rid of that entire section here alone and just left this product here, it's still not going to look appealing. So new photography, new design, like that could have been an entire thing. But a big part of what they were saying was supply chain. They couldn't provide the windows anymore in order to fulfill their orders, so they had to just do away with it, and then they had somebody Photoshop in a fake window, and that lasted pretty much all of 2022. So it was probably a good idea at that point to make a change, kind of like Barilla has done. And if you're familiar with Barilla packaging, that's the other one that I think gets a lot of credit for eliminating their plastic window. But there's a ton of problems with that packaging, which I thought was really crazy. We didn't cover this yet. We didn't cover this on the talk today, but I do want to share it with you here. This is the Barilla packaging. Now, this isn't what's on shelf, right? Like, all brands create like this beautiful pack that is, some kind of a rendering that gets shared. This is from the dieline.com, but it's not what actually hits the shelf, right? You eliminate some of the different details that are on the pack to make it look more appealing for marketing. This is not what's on shelf. But they did get away with, they got away from the plastic window. But if we, it's not letting me go back. But there's a lot of information that's on here, right? There's like one that says like made in Italy, or Italy's finest. Italy, like Switzerland, came in and said, you got to stop saying that. This is not the finest in Italy. Which I thought was kind of, again, it's kind of interesting when a country has a brand and they want to make sure that those guidelines are being followed. I don't know why I can't get back. But yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, you can see all the different types of packaging on here. This is what it looks like on the shelf for Barilla. There's the stuff that I showed you. There's this one here. It's Italy's #1 brand of pasta. That had to be removed. They went back to the window, and it's kind of a disaster. Same as like what's going to happen with Toblerone, which they've got some of their existing packaging with the redesign on shelf. They've got some of the old inventory still on shelf. Now they got to get rid of the Matterhorn and the Swiss claim. So they're going to have new packaging. That's going to be on shelf. It's going to be a disaster. You're going to have like 3 or 4 different versions of this pack. And of course, there's different flavors of product out there. You can see like this one here, like this one looks completely different. They've got a red seal. They also have like a blue seal for some of the Barilla packaging, some of the Barilla product. So there's a lot of inconsistencies there. As much great, as much great PR as they got for this redesign, when you go to shelf, it's a disaster. It's probably, I'd say, the worst, example of the worst rollout of new packaging that I've ever seen. There's probably 10 variations of the same product packaging out there. And depending on where you are in the country, if you're North America, you're going to see different packs throughout. So it's kind of a disaster. But those are just three topics we covered this morning. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments on either show, this one or the one from 30 minutes ago. But I wanted to say thanks so much. I appreciate you hopping on here and checking us out. When we return next week, we'll actually do it at the right time because now, like I said, Arizona, we don't change our clocks. We don't do daylight savings. So right now it's 8:40 in Arizona and it's 8:40 on the West Coast. Yesterday it was 8:40 in Arizona and it was 7:40 on the West Coast. So they actually caught up to us finally. So moving forward, we'll be on time. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you hopping on here. And I hope you have, any questions, throw them on in the comments. Appreciate it.
Live from Studio 3, this is Packaging Today with Evelio Matos.